This is the thing that we really, 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 really want you to hear. You cannot train yourself into the vortex from anywhere outside the vortex. In other words, if we were to give you processes all day to try to help you to get into the vortex, it would be less effective than if life just takes you in. Jerry and Esther were driving across from Texas the last couple of days. Coming across New Mexico, there is this most beautiful place. It is called the Texas Canyon. It's in New Mexico. And it's not a canyon. But just the same, it is the most beautiful, 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 beautiful place. And as they drove and saw and breathed and felt, they could not remain outside the vortex. The condition of their moment took them in as they beheld the beauty and the well-being of their planet. Right in the vortex. Now, we don't want you running around looking for things that drag you in. There are plenty of them. But when you find yourself in there, milk it. Practice the vibration of it. Talk about how it feels. Remind yourself this is who you are. Remind yourself that this is the way you're supposed to feel. Remind yourself of the beauty of your planet. Remind yourself of the stability of your planet. Pick up a deck of well-being cards or beautiful pictures of something. In other words, that's the time to stay in the vortex. Practice the inside the vortex vibration. That will serve you far better than anything from outside the vortex you try to do to get in. And there are so many things that life shows you in every day that take you into the vortex. So when you find yourself in there, or when you even think you're in there and aren't sure, milk it. Milk it. Every time you have a moment and you are aware that you just felt a little relief and you're just feeling a little extra lift or high, a little better feeling, stop in that moment and acknowledge, what is it about this that feels so good? Jerry and Esther will sit in a restaurant that feels particularly good and they will play the game. Why do we like being here right now so much? What is it about this place that feels so good? Is it the lighting? Is it the food? Is it the fragrance in the air? Was it our server? Is it being with each other? No, it can't be that. We're always with each other. Must be something else. What is it? What is it? What is it that feels so good about this moment? What is it? And as they reach for it and identify more and more, what they do, they practice the vibration of being in the vortex longer. And this is the thing that we want you to understand. The more you practice it, the easier it is to be there. Don't you know people who are so optimistic that when you try to give them bad news, it just bounces off of them? Children are that way. A little girl in a restaurant, Jerry and Esther were sitting next to them, and the little girl was so taken by Esther. She could hear Esther's voice, so she was standing up in her booth, looking over her booth into the booth where Jerry and Esther were, and all she wanted to do was to see Esther. And Esther began winking at her and doing silly things with her silverware. She was eating with her spoon upside down and putting her napkin over her head. In other words, Esther was not helping the cause at all. Esther was attracting this little girl. And then Esther heard her father scolding her. And her father said, "Turn around and sit down now." And the little girl said, "No." And her father said, "Turn around and sit down now." And the little girl said, "No." And Esther is thinking, please turn around and sit down. Please turn around and sit down. But her father grabbed her by the ankles and dragged her across the booth. And then it was no longer a pretty sight over there. Esther felt a little bad about having temporarily dragged her into the vortex when her father clearly likes her better outside of the vortex, behaving herself. When you find yourself in the vortex. Milk it with everything that you've got until you have such a vibration going on from inside the vortex that no one and nothing that is reverberating out there with a different frequency has any access to you. And what you will begin to discover is those old troublesome thoughts that used to make their way into your consciousness frequently, they're gone. Old grudges lift off of you. You stop rendezvousing with ornery people. You stop rendezvousing with people in traffic that are inconsiderate. In other words, when you train yourself into a vibration of well-being, when you become solution-directed rather than problem-directed, when you train yourself inside the vortex, everything in your world will shift because you are the point of attraction. So we'll leave it here. We just want you to realize that the larger part of you exists. And the larger part of you, we have not said this before, but we want you to hear it now. If we were standing in your physical shoes, the soul energy, source energy, larger part of us would be our point of attraction. In other words, we would do anything and everything that we could do to deactivate any vibration that would hold us apart from our prosperity, from our well-being, from our clarity, from who we really are, from our love, from our efficiency, from our effectiveness, from our love of life, from our zest for living.